Well, as you know, the media has been very negative, extremely negative, polarizing when it comes to Trump's tariffs and spending cuts. And in fairness to them, tariffs have a historical record of not necessarily being good for the economy. But is that always the case? The Trump administration says it's a good thing. The media says polar opposite. Joining me at this time is renowned financial advisor Jake Ackerman of Ackerman Financial Group out of Florida. Jake, welcome. I want to get your take for our viewers and myself. How do you think the Trump spending cuts and tariffs will impact the economy?
Well, Rick, as always, great to be back on your show. And that is a $1 million question. I think we need to look at it in three different time frames: one short term, one medium term, and one a few years down the road. And the tariff impact in the short term in the spending cuts can cause major damage. I mean, markets are at all-time highs. Real estate prices are at all-time highs. Makes it ripe for changes in the dynamics of fiscal and monetary policy to bring down markets and cause a little bit of confusion, uncertainty, which brings down asset prices, and it could slow down the economy in the short term. But we've had massive glut in the federal government, way too many employees that are not really contributing to the private sector growth. So it doesn't necessarily, government doesn't necessarily grow the economy. It doesn't. It's actually a anti-growth of the economy because tax dollars from businesses have to go in there. So in the short term, definitely could be a little bit of pain. Now, this talk of tariffs causing inflation again, I think are ludicrous. You can look at the 2017 tariffs. It didn't drive up inflation. And those tariffs lasted for a long period of time. I mean, look at these other countries. Canada, the European Union, they have tariffs on us right now, extreme tariffs. It's time to level the playing field, and this is what we need to do in the short term to get this done. Now, short term, some pain. You got to rip off a Band-Aid, and then we get, as long as they get the tax cuts passed, drive growth in the economy, we'll get on the other side of this and be in a much better place. So short-term pain, medium term, we'll see what the response is, how quickly the response is from the Trump administration and the Congress and the Senate. And then long-term, we'll be on a much sounder footing as long as we get over this hurdle.
You know, Jake, we also like to cover sports, nutrition, and fitness here on the show. What I've just heard you say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I just heard you say short-term pain, long-term gain. And that sounds like a gym workout to me.
That is exactly it. That's exactly it.
You know, as we all know, but perhaps often forget because the media does not report this, Trump is a businessman, not a politician. Yeah, he's in politics recently, but he brings his business experience, if you will, his business acumen, if you will, to the table. And the media is focused on short-term results. His administration tells us that the same thing that you're saying, that, hey, we don't know what the short-term results will be, but we do know our goal is long-term economic success for everyday Americans. In fact, they're talking about perhaps making zero income tax rate for Americans earning under $150,000 a year. But you got to get there first economically. You agree with that concept that he's doing what a businessman does, not a politician.
I think he's using it for leverage, using it as a deal, and he has to go out in front of the media and say, "I love tariffs. Tariffs are great. Tariffs are gonna. I think about tariffs all day long," and he may have a positive feeling to tariffs. However, you can see as soon as he gets what he wants, he pauses them, he changes them, he reverses course. He's using them as a leverage.
Yeah, Jake.
And as long as we don't get long-term trade wars, and we're going to be just fine.
Jake, you bring up a point that I also wanted to add, and I agree with you. It is a leverage point. This is the author of the book, The Art of the Deal, the best-selling author of The Art of the Deal. This is a negotiating tool, which is precisely what you're saying, is it not?
That's exactly it. Use this as leverage to get what you want. Thereby, again, you're ripping the Band-Aid off. We got a little bit of short-term pain for that long-term gain, and get America on a sounder footing than we have been in decades.
Wow. Would you agree with me, Jake, that the advice to anyone watching right now is be careful with what you hear and read in the media? I'm not saying all media is bad, although that could make the point, but they are missing the point of the leverage tool of the tariff threat and the goal of creating long-term gain. The media is not reporting that whatsoever. Would you agree to advise our viewers just?
Yeah, so look, they're on these media companies. A lot of them are publicly traded. Like Comcast, or what Trump would call Comcast. They're on quarterly business. They have to provide a benefit to their shareholders. They're thinking about their quarter. What drives headlines? It sure isn't positive news stories. It's fear. It's panic. It's to drive their attention back to their news site. So you're never going to get an honest shake. You're not going to get a fair assessment of it, and you can't expect that from the media. For most of them, unless you can go through some news articles, and it's tough, but you got to look past the bias, look past the author's opinion, and you can get to the meat and potatoes of actually what's going on and what he's planning. But it is, for the readers out there, it can be challenging.
Short-term pain with the goal of long-term gain. The gym workout. Jake Ackerman, renowned financial advisor, Ackerman Financial Group in Clearwater, Florida. Thank you for joining us.
Rick, always good to be on the show. Thanks for having me.